It's been a good couple of years since I last sank my teeth into a Sony smartphone review. The last one I can recall is the Xperia Z5 Compact, which I've been interested in for years prior to that. This one is a little different though. It's still an outdated model, but that's about as close as it gets. The Xperia 5 is a £250 used candy bar smartphone with some unique hardware and software features that sets it apart from the sea of metal and glass slabs that you'll find in every corner of the smartphone market. So is it worth buying if you're a Sony fan, or even if you're not a Sony fan, or should you spend your money on something rather different? Thanks to Damien Wild for sending out this smartphone for review, really appreciate it. Check out his links in the video description. Hi guys, I'm Ryan Thomas and this is my review of the Xperia 5 in 2021. I want to get the specs out of the way to start with. 6 gigs of RAM, Snapdragon 855, 128 gigs of storage, expandable, 3140 mAh battery, and 4 cameras, 3 being 12 megapixel, 1 being 8 megapixel. To me though, numbers really only tell half the story when it comes to smartphone experiences, and actually the user experience, the interaction you have with your smartphone makes more of a difference than the numbers you see on the page. And the first thing that stood out for me is the form factor. No pop-up camera modules, no punch holes, no notches. It's a traditional bezel at the top and bezel at the bottom with some thinner ones on the side. It kind of reminds me of like a really thin Galaxy Note 9 from the front, and I think that's a good thing. Like, I know a lot of people really want the minimal bezels around every single side with no camera here, there or wherever, but I really like this layout. I think it's ergonomic, I think it looks sleek, and I'm really not sure why it started to go away. I say that because this thing is very narrow and thin. Is that ergonomically superior to a 2:1 form factor? Well, this is going to vary based on your hand size. I have small to medium sized hands for a man, and I found the Xperia 5 to be more friendly to use thanks to its thinner screen, but it might help you, it might not, it's going to be subjective. It's also very much going to depend on how you hold your smartphone. Are you sort of one of these? Do you put your pinky underneath? That sort of thing. There are some really interesting and thoughtful hardware features on the 5. For one, a proper notification LED in the top left. I've missed one of these for years. Why did they go away? Like, there's plenty of room in the bezel or in the bottom bezel for one of these, but they just died out and I missed them. Then there's traditional micro SD expansion, which is a staple of old Sony's, and a proper capacitive fingerprint reader on the side. The amount of issues I have with the in-display ones not working, it's annoying, but this one being capacitive, it works. A lot of people reported that it was slow, but I didn't really have that issue, so I'm not sure, maybe I just have a different kind of skin. Another really cool feature is this 2-stage shutter button. It's like a proper camera in that you half press it and you kind of gain focus, and you full press it to take the image. It's a very engaging way to take photos on a smartphone. It might not be the best for everything, and it's definitely not the most effective way to take a smartphone photo. You need to be as quick as possible, you just hit the shutter button. But for those of you who like to practice photography and you're more sort of smartphone photographers, this is going to be a really nice hardware feature for you, and actually I enjoyed using it as well. Onto the screen, this is a nice but not overly impressive display in my opinion. Obviously it's a 21:9 form factor, but it's also an ultra wide 1080p resolution at 6.1 inches. This is more than enough resolution in my opinion, and though it is a 60Hz refresh rate, I don't think you'd be disappointed with this display. It's sharp enough, it's bright enough, it's big enough to enjoy using. Battery life has been solid for me, not amazing, like I can get a full day of usage and I'm sort of a medium user, I'd say. I'm not a very light user these days, but I'm definitely not a heavy smartphone user. I use Bluetooth for 15 to 20 minutes a day. I am mostly on Wi-Fi, sort of 75% brightness, and I was being able to get a full day. For heavier users, you will need to top up at lunchtime, that is a guarantee, and the 18-watt fast charging that this thing supports isn't rapid, so if you've got an hour for lunch, charge it in as soon as you get on lunch, and just pray that you've got enough battery to last you the rest of the day. This is not a very long-lasting smartphone when it comes to battery life, and if you're a heavier user, look at something from China, sort of BBK, Xiaomi, something like that. Contrastingly though, I found the Xperia 5's performance to be very adequate. As I mentioned right at the start, there's a lot of power under the bonnet of this thing, so you know, you've got Snapdragon 855, flagship processor from a couple of years ago, and 6GB of RAM, that's plenty. 6 gigs of RAM might be an issue going forward, where Android is going to use up a lot more RAM and games are going to take advantage of that as well, but for now it's decent. I think if you're not a keen gamer and you're more of just a casual user, then the Xperia 5 is going to provide a very smooth experience. You're going to be happy with it. It's not the most responsive, but it is pretty good, and I would say good enough for most people. If you're buying this sort of smartphone that's aimed towards sort of visual quality, I don't think you're going to be looking at it from a gamer's perspective anyway. The Xperia 5 runs Android 11, up from Android 9 at launch. That's 2 platform upgrades, so expect maybe 1 more platform upgrade at most. If not, you're going to be stuck with Android 11. And to be honest, at the moment, it's good. It's a very good user experience. It's very clean. It's very stock feeling. It's not even, it makes Pixel experience look like One UI when it comes to how many features and the aesthetic changes. Looks very clean, looks very minimal. I really like it, and I know a lot of people really into that kind of feeling of having quite a raw version of Android. It's got a few little features sprinkled in there, such as Sony's camera app, which we'll get onto a little bit later. Why am I getting that notification now? It has some features sprinkled in there which help the user experience, but overall I think it is a very clean operating system, and it's one that a lot of people are going to enjoy. Right, let's talk cameras. Sony has not bothered fluffing out the spec sheet for this one. You get 4 actually useful cameras, an 8 megapixel selfie camera and 3 12 megapixel rear cameras in an ultra wide main and telephoto. However, software wise it does start to fall apart a bit, even before we get to the samples. Sony's Pro video app, named Cinema Pro, is very good and something that I wish more expensive devices had. Of course, this is because Sony makes some of the best broadcast and cinema cameras in the world, and they wanted to extend that experience to its phones, which is done rather well. However, the main camera app is one of the most basic I've ever used. Sure, there's a photo and a video mode, but not much beyond that. In fact, you only seem to get portrait, manual and panorama, and from what I can gather, only portrait mode in the selfie camera and not in the main camera. No night mode, no super macro modes, which usually use the ultra wide lens by the way, before anyone gets on my case about that. And the time it takes to switch between lenses is a joke too. It's definitely not the smoothest smartphone camera experience I've ever had, but let's just brush that aside and get onto the samples. Surely they can't be that bad. Overall, yeah, you're right, they're not that bad. Sure, they're not groundbreaking, and I'd still take sort of a Pixel 2 or 3 XL images over these, but given the versatility of this, those cameras didn't have ultra wides or telephotos, this is a very nice balance. You're getting solid setup. I like the sort of natural colours that this thing captures, and I do feel like it replicates reality rather consistently and accurately. The HDR effect isn't overdone, which is nice, and though there is sharpness, it doesn't look like that slider's been dragged all the way up, which aids in creating a natural looking image. The lack of night mode and traditional portrait modes really hurt its versatility for me, as those things have been a staple on even mid ranges for the past couple of years now. So not seeing them on a premium device seems like a Mickey take. And I guess that brings us on to the final question. Should you actually buy one of these? And that's a difficult one because Sony has done such a good job at making something that stands out from the competition. It's got hardware features and software features that no other smartphone in its price range has. However, the quality and some of the things, like some of the decisions they made, they don't make any sense. Like, why would you not have a night mode in a standard camera app in 2021? Even Apple's doing that. And the smartphone cameras are good, but they're not groundbreaking. They're not the biggest sensors. They haven't got the widest apertures, meaning that low light isn't as good as some of the more expensive stuff out there. And even if you pay sort of an extra £20-30, you're getting more from a lot of other smartphones. But I really like the Cinema Pro app. I really like the hardware that Sony's got on offer here. I like the price that it's coming in used. I like the display. I like the performance. There's not a lot not to like. I think it's actually overall quite a good smartphone, but its camera, software and its battery life are the two things that you need to look out for. If you're not fussed by either of those, then by all means go ahead and buy an Xperia 5. It's a really good smartphone. those two things are quite important to a lot of people these days, and so I feel like this is sort of a missed opportunity, and maybe you should go for something like from Xiaomi or from BBK, because you're going to be getting a more well-rounded smartphone, even if it is not quite as nice to use. And with that, I want to thank Damien Wild for sending out this smartphone for review. Thank you so much. Just check out his links in the video description. I'm exhausted and I've got to go to work in 30 minutes, so I need a cup of coffee. Thank you all so much for watching. Please do like, comment and subscribe if you're new around here to never miss a video like this one. Also check out all my social medias and Damien Wild's in the video description. I want to give a massive shout out to my patrons being continually supportive. Thank you so much. I've been Ryan Thomas and I'll catch you later.